Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Another day, another ridiculous story out of Chicago. We've talked about programs in the past that aim to reduce crime and gun violence through various means like skills building and community programs or even in-home mental health workers. Chicago's Ceasefire program, not to be confused with Operation Ceasefire, which operates very differently, but the Chicago program is marketed by the state and law enforcement as a success story. The program recruits and trains a group of workers that they call violence interrupters, led by a former gang leader and felon. And as you can tell by the title of this video, things have not recently gone according to plan. But before I get into today's fun story, this video is brought to you by American Hartford Gold. I am a firm believer in diversifying against inflation and the apocalypse, or impending civil war. You know, no big deal. And that includes precious metals. American Hartford Gold gives folks all kinds of options, from gold and silver and platinum bars and coins delivered right to your doorstep or invested into a retirement account like an IRA or a 401k. They have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, have a 5-star customer satisfaction rating across multiple platforms, and were ranked as the #1 gold company on Inc.'s 5,000 list of the fastest growing companies in the country. And if you ever find yourself in a bind and need to sell, they also offer a buyback commitment. So there's really no reason not to invest. So to check out American Hartford Gold and everything they have to offer, use my link down in the description. So this Chicago Ceasefire program, again different from Operation Ceasefire, seeks to cure violence, looking at it as a health issue. On the surface, their stated plan isn't a terrible one. It includes seeking out areas of violence and the people most likely to commit it, trying to stop those conflicts before they happen, and working to change community norms away from violence. Sounds pretty. The problem is, Chicago is still the murder capital of the United States and has been for over a decade. And it's hard to tell what kind of impact the program is having when the ex-cons it employs keep getting gun and domestic violence charges. The program's own director was let go after he was arrested and charged with domestic battery when his wife ended up with a busted lip, bruises on her face, and a cut neck. They have since gotten divorced, and the group released a statement about how they have a zero-tolerance policy for violence against women or children. Unless apparently it was in the con's former life, but more on that later. Nevertheless, the group's employees seem to keep getting hung up on gun charges, the most recent being 35-year-old Davon Turner. At least this time he wasn't committing any violent crimes, but he and a bunch of his friends went somewhere, smoked a bunch of weed, refused to leave the property, and made a big enough scene that people called the cops, only for the cops to show up and find he was a felon in possession of a Glock. And he wasn't the only one who was armed. When he was arrested and brought down to the station, he informed the officers that it was okay because he was gainfully employed as one of these violence interrupters at not one, but 2 of these anti-violence organizations. They were Ceasefire and Cure Violence, where his salary is paid for by Illinois taxpayers. Aren't you so excited that you get to be a part of it? He is now facing a Class X felony, armed habitual criminal, and being a felon in possession of a firearm. Previous felony convictions on his rap sheet include felon in possession of a firearm in 2014 and narcotics cases in 2018, 2013, 2008, and 2007. Nevertheless, he was released and is awaiting trial. Meanwhile, Governor Pritzker is giving organizations like Ceasefire millions of dollars a year. Sure, one study cited by the organization claims that they saw a 41% reduction in violence in 8 of the neighborhoods they work in, and we have to take that at face value. But it's questionable when their members keep getting arrested, and at least one of their anti-gun violence tactics includes blocking the interstate and disrupting baseball games. Not really sure what that's supposed to do about crime, but it's apparently worth millions of dollars. And of course, these anti-violence workers getting arrested on gun and violence charges is not isolated to Chicago and Ceasefire. Earlier this year, an anti-violence worker with an Atlantic City group called One Neighborhood Evolution was taken into federal custody after stabbing 2 men on Thanksgiving in 2022. A warrant was put out for his arrest on 2 counts of aggravated assault, 2 counts of possession of a weapon, and possession of a weapon for an unlawful purpose. 2 of those as well. He was fired from his non-violent job, but somehow evaded arrest for 15 months. And when he finally got picked up, it turned out he was also wanted on a federal probation violation. He was on parole from a 10-year prison sentence stemming from his role as distributor and gang enforcer for a violent drug gang. Though I guess being in a drug gang kind of requires violence. It must have been pretty bad because that 10 years was still part of a plea deal. It was 10 years in prison and 10 years of federal parole, which he violated with that stabbing. Now, prior to that case, he had already had 2 felony convictions for weapon offenses. Then, last year, another anti-violence worker, this one in St. Louis, he was busted on drug charges after dealing fentanyl in connection with a drug trafficking and money laundering gang. At the time, he was earning a salary of $57,000 a year of taxpayer money and was a supervisor working with an anti-violence program out of the Mayor's Office for Violence Prevention. The mayor's office says that that program doesn't have an official title, but was sure to tell the nightly news that that program is different than the one that the news outlet featured in 2021 as part of St. Louis, probably because the news interviewed one Jerome Williams with that one of the program's violence interrupters, as part of the news feature. And then 7 months later, Mr. Williams was federally charged for helping to cover up a murder. Prior to that, he did 30 years for kidnapping. I mean, I could say that, they are hiring these folks to give them a second chance at new life and to help them rectify their ways and give back to the community, but clearly the ones in this story aren't making very many changes. If someone could figure out how to actually run these programs, the ideas of getting down into the community, giving people skills, and working to change the community and solve the root of the problem, they could actually do some good. But it is clear that these programs aren't vetting their employees or helping them stay on the straight and narrow. And sure, you could say that this is just a handful of examples over a few cities, but if you consider that a lot of these programs only employ a dozen people or less, the numbers start to look not so great. Anyways, those examples are just scratching the surface. There are some fun things that come up if you start Googling for anti-violence workers who have been arrested or charged with various things while in this anti-violent employment. Fun times. And all on the taxpayer dime. So that is it for this video, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe if you are new here. Drop a comment down below for the algorithm powers that be. Ring that notification bell if you like my videos and want to keep getting informed of them, because otherwise YouTube might not tell you because they don't like what I have to say. And as always, thanks for tuning in and happy shooting.